Will there be another Jujutsu Kaisen movie? Everyone was wondering if MAPPA would do a Chainsaw Man movie since they did a movie for JJK0. And what do you know, they announced a movie for the Bomb Girl arc. But now people are wondering, okay, MAPPA is kinda doing its thing with movies, and the JJK0 movie was a big hit, so will we get another movie? And at first you might think, well duh, it's a no-brainer, but when you look at what they can actually adapt, things get much more complicated. So in this video, I'm going to go over the 2 movies MAPPA has already made, talk about the potential for a new movie, and discuss whether or not a new Jujutsu Kaisen movie is something we can realistically expect. Now, like I said, MAPPA already did the JJK0 movie, which made perfect sense. Anime movies are kind of the move right now, with One Piece, My Hero, and Demon Slayer all killing it. So naturally, when Jujutsu Kaisen became as popular as it is now, people started to wonder how they would do a movie, because there were really only 2 options. JJK0, which takes place before the main story, and Hidden Inventory, which also takes place before the main story. The JJK0 thing killed 2 birds because not only did it answer the movie problem, but it also answered the question of how was MAPPA going to adapt the prequel series. But things are a bit more complicated now, because now we're 2 full seasons into JJK. We already have a movie that adapted JJK0, and we already adapted the flashback arc. So the question is, what could MAPPA possibly use as a source material for a new movie? Well, first we should probably ask, will they even do another movie? They haven't announced anything about a new movie yet, so anything at this point is mostly speculation. But when you look at how well anime movies do, it's more than likely that MAPPA will do another one. I mean, all of the anime movies make a ton of money. I mean, the One Piece movies make a boatload of money, and the Demon Slayer movies make a ton of money. In terms of JJK, Jujutsu Kaisen 0 made over $196 million in the global box office. For a frame of reference, the last My Hero movie made just over $47 million. That's more than triple what that movie did. Basically, MAPPA would be leaving millions and millions of dollars on the table if they decided not to do another JJK movie. So, that brings us back to our main question. We know they will probably do another movie since it's going to make a ton of money. The question is what the heck they can adapt into a new movie. Actually, before I get into that, make sure to like the video if you're enjoying it so far. It's the easiest way to support the channel, and it helps spread the video to other viewers like you. So I think it's helpful in this case to look at Chainsaw Man. Because once we got JJK0, it was like, okay, well Chainsaw Man doesn't have any prequels, plus Chainsaw Man pacing is a thing. So the whole problem there was like, where do you logically take a portion of Chainsaw Man and turn it into a movie? And MAPPA's solution was pretty straightforward. They just kind of picked an arc everyone likes and said, hey, this arc is going to be a movie and then we'll go back to season 2. In essence, they went the route of Demon Slayer. If you're not a fan of Demon Slayer, basically instead of writing an original story or adapting some kind of prequel, they just took the arc after season 1 and said, hey, this is a nice short arc, let's just make it into a movie. And obviously that worked out really well because that movie made a boatload of money. Naturally, MAPPA is like, hey, we also have a series that's really popular. We also have a nice short arc after the first season that everyone likes. Let's just do what Ufotable did. So that brings us back to JJK. We know MAPPA has no problem going the Demon Slayer route. So like Chainsaw Man, it's reasonable to expect the next movie to adapt one of the main storylines. They could adapt one of the side stories, like I've seen some people say, but I just don't see a lot of people wanting to go out of their way to watch one of those stories. Another option would be to write an original story for a movie, which is also a viable option when you look at One Piece. One Piece does it all the time and Dragon Ball does it all the time, and those movies are usually pretty popular. But they also fit somewhere canonically in the main story. So the issue there would be, where would the story even take place? Because after Shibuya, it's just go, 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 and it never really stops. The only place I could maybe think of is in the perfect preparation arc right after Shibuya. But even then, I just don't know what the movie would even be about. They could maybe write an original villain for the movie that Yuji and his friends would then have to stop without Gojo, but I just don't see how they would make that work. which is why adapting one of the canon storylines makes the most sense. Except, there's just one problem. MAPPA has already announced Season 3, and they basically came right out and said that Season 3 will adapt the Culling games, and in the trailer you can see that there are scenes from the Culling games. So any hopes of that arc being adapted as a movie basically just went right out the window. You could argue that they'll do a Culling games movie and then also adapt it in the anime like Demon Slayer does, but why would they announce it as the anime first and then go back and be like, oh yeah, there's also going to be a movie or whatever? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So without Culling games, that basically just leaves us with the current arc. An arc which, right now, isn't even finished. Except, there is one part of this arc that is finished. And believe it or not, it would actually make the perfect movie. Oh, by the way, if you're not caught up on the manga, this next part is going to contain some pretty major spoilers. Now, what I think would make perfect sense for the second movie would be to adapt the Sukuna vs. Gojo fight. I know, it kinda sounds weird at first, but just hear me out. Imagine this. Imagine the Culling games ends. Imagine Season 3 ends with Sukuna leaving Ouji, taking over Megumi, and killing Megumi's sister. The season ends, but then they tease the return of Gojo in the long-awaited fight between the greatest sorcerer and the king of curses. Tell me that wouldn't be the sickest movie. Understandably, some of you might be like, well, okay dude, that's one fight, that's not enough for one whole movie. And that's where you would be wrong. Let's look at the Chainsaw Man movie. That movie will adapt the Bomb Girl arc. The Bomb Girl arc is chapters 39 through 52. That means it's adapting 14 chapters. If you do a 2-hour movie, that's a little over 3 chapters every 30 minutes. Which is definitely fast pacing, but considering a lot of those chapters are just fights, it would work out just fine. Now let's look at Gojo vs. Sukuna. This fight is chapter 220 to about chapter 236. That's 17 chapters. So again, if you do a 2-hour movie, that's just over 3 chapters for every 30 minutes. And even more of these chapters are fights, so a 2-hour movie would be no problem. And considering they turned all 4 chapters of JJK0 into almost 2 hours, it only makes sense that they could do the same for Gojo vs. Sukuna. The only real issue is how they would logically end the movie, because in the manga, it kinda just ends and moves right into the next fight. So there's 2 issues. 1, how do you end the movie? And 2, if it's between seasons 3 and 4, how do you end it in a way that it can smoothly transition into season 4? I think a simple solution would be to just write some movie original ending to the fight so that way there's a real conclusion, and not just something like, and then the fight ended. Plus, they could just end the movie with Gojo's final moments rather than just having to make something up. That way, they could start season 4 right in the action with Kashimo fighting Sukuna. In any event, that is why I think there will absolutely be another JJK movie, and it's going to adapt Gojo vs. Sukuna. In fact, I am so confident, I'm going to wager that Gojo vs. Sukuna, the movie, will not only make more money than JJK0, but it will end up making $250 million in the global box office. On that note, now I'd like to hear what you think. Do you think there will be another JJK movie? What would you like to see in a movie? Share your thoughts and see what everyone else has to say down in the comments. I'll pick my favorite and share it as comment of the week on my community tab. And if you'd like another discussion like this one, then make sure to check out my video on JJK's art style. In that video, I explore the artistic evolution of JJK. You can find it in the playlist linked right here. Until then, thank you for watching, and I hope to hear from you soon.